welcome to the center. Would you like a program?
Welcome to the center.
Of everything. It's all good.
Yeah, that's right.
It's amazing what
Center of my world and yours.
Good morning. Welcome to the center.
We're here for some wonderful centerings, a good meditation, great lessons, and wonderful companionship.
And lots of love.
Yes.
Lots of love.
It's in the cells, baby. It's in the cells, as Callie say. It's there.
So let's just get still. And give our bodies permission to just relax. And we take a moment now to come apart from the busyness of this morning. And no matter what situations or circumstances are going on around you, in your life, there is always an opportunity to experience peace. And as you take this pause in meditation, you turn within. And let's just take a deep breath in. And as we breathe out, we release any stress on our heart and our mind. Let's breathe in again. And this time as we breathe out, let's move even deeper within, releasing even more tension. As you focus within, when you do that, you touch that place of peace. Outer circumstances no longer hold your attention or your focus. The peace that is always within you becomes evident and fills your being. So let's just breathe in once more. And as we breathe out, let's just know that the peace that is the eye of the storm enfolds you. This is a peace that surpasses all understanding. It's a peace of God that is part of your true nature. Outer circumstances have no power over you. Thoughts of worry or tension, they just drift away. Your mind and body resonates with this place of peace. This peace is your birthright. This peace is who you are in your depth. And touching this place of peace, you know yourself as peace. It's more than a thought, it's more than a feeling, it's a knowing. And you can touch this place of peace at any time just by turning within and becoming still. Touching this peace, it changes you, it transforms you. And when your focus returns to what is yours to do this day, new possibilities open up in the world around you. Now this is peace. So this morning, as we just take a brief moment to move into the silence, let's take thoughts of Reverend Stacy and Reverend Cheryl with us as they take a step forward in their life tomorrow. We know that they move through their orals with ease and grace, and that everything is in divine order. come back into the sanctuary and open up our eyes, this peaceful knowing stays with us. It blesses you and all those around you. And as you go about the rest of your day, you remember that you are peace, and you remember that you are truly loved.
If it is comfortable for you, please close your eyes and allow my words to be your words as I speak in the first person. Right here, right now, I know there is only one power, and that is God. God is peace. God is love. God is joy. God is infinite intelligence. And I know this power is in and around and through me, as me, is me right now. Knowing that there is no place where God is not. And in this sacred place, in this moment of truth, I know that I'm divinely guided. Knowing that today is a day of peace, and I claim this peace for myself and for everyone that hears my voice. Knowing that God is all love. And I now know that as I open my heart more love pours out to everyone that I come in contact with. I let go of old thoughts and old thinking and old ways, knowing that God is present right here, right now, in this moment. I look not to the future, but I look to the present moment, knowing that I'm divinely guided in all areas of my life. And with absolute certainty, I know that everything that I need or desire is provided for me right here and right now. There is no lack. The universe has an unlimited source of supply, and I claim it right now for myself and everyone that hear my words. I recognize and lift up all those that have been through the ordeals of the last couple weeks, knowing that God is the comforter. And I stand on faith, knowing that today is a better day. And that as more people connect with each other in love, knowing that there is nothing more powerful than love. And God is all love and peace and joy in this world. So what I know for this world, that it's a perfect world that works for me and for everyone in it. I give thanks this morning for our Reverend Cheryl and Reverend Stacy, as they move forward in their life. I know that perfect divine right action is taking place right now. And I rest in assurance knowing that they know exactly what to say and do. I give thanks for this center, for everyone that made a choice this morning to walk through these doors to a place of love and peace, knowing that it is comforting. It is all love. It is God. I give thanks for the children, for the teens, and for the technicians and the musicians who come from a place of love to bring such joy to my heart and soul. And I give thanks this morning for Reverend Dan's message, knowing that it provides me exactly what I need to hear this morning, that will carry me through the rest of the week with love and assurance, knowing that I'm divinely loved. So with this truth, knowing that this is a world that works for everyone, in faith I stand and trust, trusting in God, knowing that it is already done and the truth is already revealed. I say thank you, God, for this wonderful, wonderful truth. And I release my word into the universal law, knowing it is already so. And please join me in saying, and so it is.
So 2 weeks ago, and about 12 hours from now, something happened in Las Vegas. It's hard for me to believe it was just 2 weeks ago. The title of my talk today is The Fear of Intimacy. Now, intimacy is defined in the dictionary as follows. Close familiarity or friendship, closeness. Now, synonyms include togetherness, affinity, rapport, friendliness, friendship, affection, and warmth. And so today I would like to speak to that idea of intimacy. Now settle down. But I'd like to talk about intimacy with this thing called life. In other words, what is our relationship with life? What is our closeness and our rapport with life? Do we have a friendship with life? Is there affection and warmth with life? So early Monday morning, October 2nd, 2017, I became aware of what had happened the night before at Mandalay Bay. And I remember being in my prayer space in shock and disbelief and anger and sadness. And then something very interesting happened. It set in. The it was this unbelievable fear. And it was fear that I had once known before, and I was literally gripped in fear. And as I sat there, I thought, what is this? Where is this coming from? And I remember closing my eyes, and there I was, 13 years old, San Francisco, family vacation, Chinatown. And I remember the sun being in the middle of this big city, and the sun was starting to drop down in the west, and the shadows were long and reaching, and I felt it. Something was wrong. And then I heard it. I see white. And the violence began. And we were attacked by a gang in Chinatown. And in the aftermath, shock, disbelief, anger, sadness, and a tremendous fear. And 40 years ago, in a matter of moments, my entire paradigm shifted. There was a huge shift in my consciousness and what I believed and what I thought. And it looked like this. How could God let this happen? God must not love me. I had no idea that the world was a dangerous place. And I said, I'm not safe here. And I remember thinking, how could someone be so unkind? I mean, these are people that didn't even know me. I remember this one young man's face, and for the first time in 40 years, I was able to forgive him. I realized at that moment that human beings were mean, they were unkind. And I was brought up to believe that God was good and took care of me. And I thought, you know what? God does not have my back. And I started to have this belief that somehow life was against me. So I lived in fear. I thought in fear. I believed in fear. And I felt fear. Now you see, there's only two problems with that. There's only two problems with a view of life like that. The belief that life is to be feared. And the first problem with that is at the age of 13, I was unaware that there was a natural law in the universe. Now this law is as real as gravity. It is as precise as the law of physics. I was unaware that there was a science that was as real as mathematics, a science that was as precise as chemistry. And what I was unaware of is that there was a law, a science of the mind. And what I did not understand at that time was that there was this law, and it is infinite, and it is boundless, and it is creative, it is intelligent, and it is everywhere at all times. And the sole purpose of this law is to take our beliefs, our feelings, and thoughts and turn them into things. This law literally turns our thoughts into things. In other words, what we think about, this law uses to create our reality. See, this law uses what's on the inside to create the outside. And so what began to happen with this new belief system was the law, as it is designed to do, with great creativity and power and intelligence, this law went about creating and attracting the people, the relationships, the opportunities, the experiences, and I always throw this in, and the money that enhanced, enlarged, and magnified my fear. I have to read this to make sure I get this right. My fear was literally creating everything necessary to perpetuate everything I feared. The second problem with this new view of life, this belief that life is to be feared, was this. From that point forward, all I ever sought was safety and security. No matter what came up, I took no risks. I took the safe way, the secure way. I took the road most traveled. How do you think an inspiring actor, funded by multiple scholarships to study theater in college, ended up working for an electric company for 32 years? No risks. At first I said, as I was writing this, I thought it was very depressing. I changed that because I'm a positive thinking minister. But it was very revealing to look back, to see what fearful thinking, fearful choosing, playing it safe, playing it small. It was revealing to look at how that showed up in my life, what my life looked like. There were 3 teenage boys, all about the same age, each of them pursuing their own acting career, all at the same time. Now, I'm going to see if you can guess their names. Show them the first one, Russell. Who is it? So good. He ain't all that. Show them the next one. In living color. Okay, the third one. Who knows what could have happened if my approach, my view, my thinking of life was different? We must always remember this one very important point that our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says in his book, The Science of Mind textbook. And he says on page 470, God cannot give us anything. God cannot give us anything unless we are in a mental condition to receive the gift. The law cannot do anything for us unless it does it through us. Belief is absolutely necessary to right demonstration. Belief, but belief in the right things. Belief in life. Belief in what we want. Not in the belief, the fear of what we do not want. That was kind of fun to do. I'm not comparing myself to anyone. Surely, they might both be slightly more attractive. They might slightly, I mean, not a lot, but might slightly be a little more talented. Keep saying it. I'm not comparing myself to anyone, but I am reminding myself what the greatest religious science teacher in history said, and it was this: all things are possible with God. All things. But you know, life, your life, my life, never has to stay where it is. Because many years later, I walked into this center. And for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be reborn. Because when I came here, I had a new, huge paradigm shift. I had a huge shift in my consciousness and in my belief system and in my predominant thinking. And it was this: God so loved itself that it created me. Good job. I learned here that the universe is knitted together, is woven together with the threads, the energy of love. That's all there is love. And then, what was most important for me as I looked at life being against me, what I realized was that life was for me. I learned that the universe is a benevolent place. It is a good place. And most importantly, I learned that I am one with every person. That changes the whole perspective. And then I learned that I had been given everything I needed to create everything I wanted. And so I learned about this law. And this law that I now understand has given me a most exquisite life. And I affirm that it just keeps on getting better. And the universe always says, so let's take a dose. So on October 2nd, I had to face my fear again. I had a choice to make. Would I go down that path of fear? Or would I choose differently? Would I choose the road of magnificence? And God, because God is interested in my life, is interested in my highest and best good. God delivered this amazing article to me, and it came to me at the very right time. It's from Marilyn Tam, and the article is entitled, "What to Do When Bad Things Happen to Good People." So, let's sit down, family. Have some reading time. So why do things happen to good people? It's not fair, there's no justice, and God's not paying attention. Those are the feelings that oftentimes arise when we learn about a tragedy that have befallen an innocent person or a group of people. When blameless people suffer a horrific disaster, it tests our belief in a loving and just universe. And this is especially challenging to deal with when we are directly impacted by the trauma. How do we manage the frustration and the anger and the helplessness? When the Japanese airline, JAL Flight 123, crashed into two mountain ridges in Japan in 1985, 520 people died. This was not an intellectual tragedy for me, because you see, my father was on that flight. 4 passengers miraculously lived. My father was not one of them. It was even harder to accept that my father was gone when we found out that improper repair of the rear section of the plane allegedly caused the accident. Why? How could this be? Exhausted from jet lag and in the pain and horror of spending a week looking at pieces of what used to be people to identify our father's remains, I was on my knees weeping and praying for greater guidance and strength. In that place of desperation and despair, I felt a little sense of peace emerge from inside. A quiet inner voice said, "Look around for the blessings." The thought seemed ludicrous to me at that moment. With little sleep and food and even less information and knowledge of how to handle the situation, This message floored me. So that is what it takes sometimes. For us to shift from whatever we are feeling and thinking to a new way of looking at the issue. Release your grip on righteous fear, the sense of being wronged, and ask, what can I do now? Where is there light in these circumstances? All we can do is try to rise up beyond the question, why did it happen? And begin to ask the question, what do I do now that it has happened? We are not going to be able to bring all killed innocent people back. What can we do now? What can we learn from the situation? How can we prevent it from happening again? Where is the blessing? We eventually identified it takes a lot of courage to be a human being. We eventually identified a part that we felt was our Father's and had the proper ceremonies to bring some closure to a dreadful nightmare. What can I do now that we are faced with another tragedy? How can I make it better? How can this be a teaching moment? How can I open my heart even wider to encompass the pain and grow from it rather than closing down? I've shed many tears since that plane crash over numerous injustices. And I have also stopped to look for the good that can come out of a bad situation. Where are the blessings? In the end, that is all we can do. We do not know why bad things happen to good people, but we can do what we can to help. And to remember that underneath those dark clouds, the sun is still shining. So moved by that story. And so, last week, right before I came to service, the television was on and they played some music and they showed every one of the individuals that made their transition on that day. And when I came to service last Sunday, I was very overwhelmed. And Sid Mastery, the great spiritual warrior of light, he calls himself, he knew, that I was really struggling with all of this. And he shared this little gem with me from Michael Beckwith. Michael says, when anything happens in life, there is a 3-step approach to handling it. Number 1, it is what it is. It is what it is. Accept it. It will either control you or you will control it. Number 2, harvest the good. There's good in everything. There's no spot where God is not. And number 3, forgive all the rest. Accept, harvest, forgive. So I took all of this into my prayer time. And I decided, and I am affirming the following. Every person has been given great power. But with great power comes great responsibility. That's what we call freedom. And unfortunately, there are those very few. And sometimes we have to remember that some of them are very sick. Some of them are ill. But there are those very few that abuse that power and that freedom. And what God reminded me was that that does not mean that all people are mean and unkind. That doesn't mean that I'm not loved by the universe. And it doesn't mean that life is not good and beautiful and lovely and magnificent. There are a million magical things happening right now in the world. And some of them look like this. Russell? Remember, it reminded me of the first time I kissed Lisa Garcia in first grade. We broke up. It is magical. In its greatest moments, in its deepest moments, it is magical. And it goes on. And all of this reminds me that I must use my power and my freedom with wisdom and love. It does mean that I'm always at choice. And I get to choose when something happens, if it will make me bitter or better, smaller or bigger, if it will push me into fear or drive me into being absolutely fierce. So today, I choose what I can do to make life better. I choose to do my job as a religious scientist, which means I see the good and I harvest the blessings. And there must come a time that I have to accept the things I cannot change. I choose to know that there is a time for me to grieve, to be one with those who suffer tragedy, to be in despair, and then I must learn to choose to stand up again and forget the rest. So from this moment forward, I do not allow fear in my mind or in my life. From this moment forward, I choose to operate from my divine fierceness. And just like you, I will never, ever, ever ever forget that I am Vegas strong. I love you all. So let's take a deep breath together, a deep collective conscious breath. And I always like doing that because that reminds me that we all breathe the same air. Because we all come from the same place, made of the same stuff. And so I just recognize that there is only one. It is all God, and it is all good. And so I know that I am one with this one, and I know that I am one with each and every person here. And likewise, I know that each person here is one with the one, and one with each person here. And so as I stand in those truths, I now speak my word. And so I just declare today that this great city is filled with peace and love, with understanding, with forgiveness, and compassion. I declare that Reverend Stacy, Reverend Cheryl travel safely. I know that they are ordained ministers. They just have to let the world catch up with them. And so I declare that right here and right now, each person remembers their magnificence. Remembers that no matter where they are in life right now, it can change. I declare that each person navigates through their week with joy and peace and love. And so I give thanks for all that has been declared, knowing that it is so. I give thanks for each person here. And so now I simply release my word into the perfect workings of the law. It is already done. And so I let go, I let God, and together we say, so it is. Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
I know this in my mind.
I know this in my mind.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
And so it is.